and welcome to the second roundtable discussion, Investments and Plans in a New Decade. The moderator for this session is Paul Jenkins, Managing Director of ThePackHub, a leading packaging innovation consultancy helping brand owners, retailers, and packaging suppliers deliver a range of packaging innovation services. Paul is an internationally renowned packaging trends expert. The ThePackHub are experts in understanding packaging trends and run a packaging innovation database with over 4,900 initiatives from around the world. They also host packaging conferences, publish reports, and offer technical support. I'll now hand it over to Paul Jenkins for the proceedings.
Thank you very much for those kind words. My name is Paul Jenkins, and as been said, Managing Director of ThePackHub. We're interested in all types of packaging innovations as part of our Innovation Zone database of nearly 5,000 entries. What is worth pointing out is that of those new initiatives that we're spotting, most now are related to sustainability, and there is a really big sort of element of recycling and recyclability. So I'm delighted to be part of this esteemed event and be asked to moderate some questions. I've got three very good participants with me today. I've got Ron Sherga, founder and CEO of EcoStrate SFS Inc., Tim Stedman, CEO of Agilyx, and Dr. Steve Wong, CEO of Fukutomi, and also Executive President of the China Sustainable Plastics Association. I think we're across 4 time zones, so a properly, truly international event. You've heard from me, a little bit about me. I would like to just give the participants an opportunity to introduce themselves. So perhaps, Ron, if you could go first and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, my name is Ron Sherga. I was really born into the industry. My father was in the plastics world selling wide spec and scrap materials, although I expected to take a different path in life, but I was drawn in, and here I am almost 50 years later. So I enjoy it tremendously. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I've worked with numerous corporations, advising them on strategies and methodologies to take technologies, commercialize them, in some cases exit. I have my own IP that I've licensed out on recycling problematic plastics. And in the interest of time, that's it. My bio is posted, so I'll let people feel free to take a look at that. So thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you very much for that. So, and over to you, Tim. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so Tim Stedman, based in Switzerland right now. And I'm the CEO of Agilyx since last August. Prior to that, I was 28 years in the chemical industry. So the last 5 years with Trinseo, which is a carve out of the Dow Chemical Company, focused on the styrenics value chain. And before Trinseo, I was 23 years with ExxonMobil Chemical. So always in chemicals, quite a bit of that time in plastics, quite a bit of that time dealing with issues related to the developing kind of concern around waste plastics with Plastics Europe and the ACC. And last year got the chance to move over to a company that is focused on addressing those challenges and turning it into an opportunity. So I'm pleased to be here.
Excellent, Tim. Good to have you on board. And finally, last but certainly not least, Dr. Steve Wong, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Steve Wong. I've been in this business since 1984. So this is about 37 years, 38 years going to be in this recycling business. And I started as a trader and eventually since the 90s, last century, involved in processing. And we are still processing scrap plastic in Hong Kong, and the headquarters is based in Hong Kong, and I'm in Los Angeles. We do a lot of different type of plastics in terms of engineering plastic as well as general plastics. I'm actually involved in a lot of conferences, and I'm also observer for the Basel Convention and participating in different conferences that I know what's going to happen because of the legislations and also policy changes. So I'm very, very nice to meet you guys here, and it's an opportunity to join the discussion. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your introductions. I calculate that's well over 100 years of experience between you. You know, lots and lots and lots of valuable experience and knowledge to impart in the next sort of 40 minutes or so. So the first question is around sort of recycled content plastic. So manufacturers who want to use recycled content plastic some remain concerned about adequate supply. How are the global effects to divert more plastic for recycling faring? Who wants to give a go at answering that question first?
Yeah, can I? Yeah, maybe I like to share some of the numbers that I collected, and also being as a recycler, I face different kind of not opportunity, also challenges in terms of what is the availability and what's actually required. So I look at some numbers from 2019. Globally, that year there was a production of 368 million tons of plastic produced. And meanwhile, we only see, as what most people talk about, hardly 10% of waste plastic being recycled. And when you look at this number, it's not too difficult to calculate. It's only 35 million tons of recycled plastic available. And then when we look at all the commitment from brand owner and also from different industries, they use recycled content. And then you see there's a big shortage. So I just look at like 30% of recycled content required as committed by most brand owners. We see the total quantity actually required is around about 100-something million, to be exact, maybe 110 million tons. So we have this, we call it imbalance or mismatching in quantity. And the other problem we see is quality. I think most people, they might not be realized that in recycled material, what people are looking for mostly are natural in color and also mechanical, chemical property to meet specific requirement. And we see nowadays there's a big shortage, for example, of natural PET flake or non-natural PET pellet, same as like HDPE bottles. And we see, like, especially in the States, nowadays, HDPE bottle pellet recycled material are selling more than probably $3,000 something, $4,000 US, which is like a couple of times more than the prime material. And this will only go higher and higher in price. And on one hand, this is good, okay, because the recycling industry is going to die if people traditionally use recycled material because of the prices. And today they use it, with different concept due to environmental focus. On the other hand, we see there's the problem of a lot of low-grade material. There's no outlet, and there's still no outlet. Yeah, so I just start with this problem that we will see. Of course, later on we will see like this. There are different problems like regulatory changes and also a restriction on import-export. They'll be like, okay, so far East, there are more than 20-something thousand recyclers. They don't have enough material to work with. And like in developed country, Europe or in the US, there are low-grade material that eventually might still go to the environment because of supply and demand, and also recyclers are all in different places, and they are not really at the place that where recycled material needed. So I start with this, okay, yeah, and then just want to see, or what would you comment on this?
Yeah, maybe if I could pick up on that, because I think some really good points in there, which highlight the nature of the challenge. It's interesting, we are a technology company. We're licensing two things, basically. One is chemical recycling conversion technology. The second thing is we're licensing what we refer to as feedstock technology. That is now being marketed through our joint venture with ExxonMobil called Cyclex. And the whole focus of that is to address and get at that 90% that we were just hearing about, the material that today is just not capable or not available to be taken through mechanical recycling. One thing that we see is chemical recycling is starting. It's a nascent business, really. There's a number of technologies, though, that are actually competing for feedstock with mechanical recycling. And that is not going to address that issue of the 90% that Steve was just talking about. There's no point as both fighting over the same material. If it can go to mechanical recycling, it should go to mechanical recycling. What chemical recycling needs to be focused on, and you need to do that through innovation and through technology, is that vast bulk of material that today is kind of untouched, unmanaged. When we talk about material that there's no solution for, well, there is a solution for it. It can be converted back, but it is through a chemical recycling process. But it's critical when you do that, you have to understand the chemistry of what you're putting in the front end of that. And that's where you need technology within that feedstock space as well, because simply putting material blindly into a chemical recycling process will simply move the problem somewhere else, because you've got to be able to then get it back into your customer or your partner's existing processes to be able to recover it back to plastic or whatever it might be. So, I think it is a huge challenge, but there is technology coming through that can address that. And the point is to deploy it in the places where there isn't an answer for the plastic waste issue today.
Excellent, really good point.
I'd like to build on that. I just think the history really, people didn't collect it, didn't do anything with it because there weren't markets for it. There wasn't places to go with it. And so I think we had a technology gap, we had a market gap. And now technology is catching up, but I think diversion is part of it, right? But once you divert, your first step is always mechanical. I mean, mechanical is always the first step, has to go through mechanical in order to prepare it for chemical or anything else that's going to happen to it. So only recently have we started seeing great advances in sortation and separation technology and the investments to do that then feed it into various options, both mechanical and chemical, to do it. So I think it is catching up, and I think that's creating the incentives. Here we call that field of dreams, build it and they will come. And I think there has been some of that. And I do think finding end markets are embracing these things. Look, it wasn't all that long ago. Nobody wanted to claim they use recycled content because it was an admission that their final product somehow was lesser quality. Now it's a badge of courage to say you are doing it. Mm-hmm. So I think those paradigm shifts within the cultures and within industry itself are supporting extra diversion, extra collection. And I think we're seeing more and more of that because there are values associated with this, as Dr. Wong said earlier. And as Tim is saying, they're building these facilities and there's value to these materials now. And before those weren't being recognized. So it is a big shift. And I think we're going to see more and more diversion happening. So, which is a great thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Some excellent answers there. Thank you. So the next sort of topic is, you can't open a newspaper now or look online in the news feeds to sort of hear about concerns about plastic in the environment, and that's potentially influencing public dialogue about the use of plastic. But is this discussion leading to helpful investments to boost plastic recycling? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to just jump in here real quick here. And that is, I think success builds for better investment support, not fear. And I think examples like Agilyx, what they're doing and some of the things. I know that the company I'm involved in, EcoStrate, and again, technologies, by providing outlets, providing new end markets for these materials, it's success that makes people say, wow, I want to invest. Fear only goes so long. But there's a lot of mixed messages out there by people, in my opinion, who should know better. A lot of brand owners are sending out mixed messages. A lot of people in the scientific community aren't being scientific. I think politicians and media are pandering to get sort of support and fan the fears of flame, and it's just not good. And I think that that stifles people and makes them hesitant to invest. Whereas when you show success and you show innovation, it really gets people on board. And we're seeing more of that. I think we're seeing people invest. We've also seen the boondoggles out there too. And I think those hurt all of us. But I just think the mixed messages are not good. And I think they set us back. So that's my comment on that.
So what do we do about that, Ron? I mean, you're absolutely right. We're hearing lots of contradictory messaging. that is, is shifting and changing or influencing strategy. I mean, it's not a quick fix, is it?
No, but I think people like Tim and Dr. Wong and myself, we're challenging that. I think the people hosting this convention, the recycling, they're putting out the positive message and showing a real data, right? It's data driven today, right? And I think we need to talk more and more about those positive messages and not let people, I think, slander us. Look, I've made a living and a wonderful living out of this industry, and I take it personally when it comes under assault, quite frankly. I'm not saying we don't have problems, but I'm also saying let's highlight the positives and go forward and trying to embrace those. So,
excellent.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things, so broadly, I see the confluence of events, which is represented by the public at large, regulators, governments, the media, brand owners, the industrial complex, wherever you sit in the value chain. I mean, everybody recognizes that this is an issue that has to be addressed, and everybody is wanting to do something to address it. Now, the question is, are they doing the right thing? And are they doing something that is actually not inadvertently doing more harm? And I think we have to recognize that we can't sort of sit on our hands forever analyzing it. We have to take steps, we have to move and take action. And so my hope is that whilst there is this sort of drive to change and drive to move, there's also a recognition that there's going to be a need to learn. And a classic example is that there are parts of the regulatory committee, the community, NGOs, parts of the industry that would say, polystyrene is not recyclable. Actually, polystyrene is the most recyclable, you could argue, because it's the easiest to unzip to its immediate precursor, such that you can go directly back to a virgin material. In other words, you can go from a potentially very distressed end use to one where it can be used in food grade or pharmaceutical grade material. And so, so as innovation comes in, as technology comes in, I think we also need to be prepared across the board to relearn and change our paradigms. So I think it's good that people are setting out, bold statements, bold ambitions, politicians pushing for change, brand owners doing the same thing. But at the same time, let the technology actually lead us. And as developments and innovations come through, then be prepared to adapt so that we're making the right decisions as opposed to ones that are politically expedient.
Yeah, I also want to comment that with all these messages sending out, and also we see on the TV that from time to time that there's a lot of different images about how bad plastic polluting the globe. And we see lots of policymakers, they all want to do or want to try to do something. Unfortunately, these are the people that they don't really understand our business. And there are lack of participation from our industries, especially from the policymakers' perspective. They only know very little about our industry, especially they look at all this literature. Most of them are really for many years. And as we are in the recycling business, we see every day, it's not only the technology, it's also the trick to do it. Okay, sometimes, okay, like I said, what just mentioned, I mean, not only like polystyrene, sometimes they always think about, all these plastic are hazardous. That's why we have Basel Convention Amendment. They don't even know like what's post-consumer, and also after this is being sorted, they are good again, for recycling. And they put lots of restrictions for export, for import. So that's why in the end, we have an imbalance of supply and demand. And the other thing is, okay, just give an example, like as I'm involved in the Basel Convention Amendment, some of the group as an observer, most of the time I'm the only recycler. And when I try to talk about my industry, and they don't really understand. They always refer to the literature, to refer, mostly people, they are very professional at meeting. And for me, okay, sometimes very difficult to convince them, like, okay, nowadays we talk about recycling, we talk about transparently movement of goods, and we also talk about infrastructure built by different governments. You always see that the policy makers and also what they try to do and what's actually happened is quite different. So this is one of the examples that we need to address, we need to look at. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much for those answers. Tim's already sort of touched on this about chemical recycling, but the question is around sort of the future role of chemical or advanced recycling in the future diversion of plastic materials, and how will lines be drawn between what is recycled mechanically as convention or what goes into a chemical process? Who would like to?
Well, maybe let me start on that, because I get this question a lot. I want to start with, we've got to be careful that we're not accused of, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Quite frankly, for me, and this is another danger, by the way, with regulation that we have to be mindful of and work with people on, is it would be a bad mistake at this point in time to be saying this is the technology that's going to work, this is the process end to end, because the actual conversion bit is just a little bit of it. It's the whole piece, how do you get it from, the point where it's thrown out by the public or by, shops, whatever it is, to the point where it's actually reused again at the same or higher level of usage. It's that whole system. And trying to pick winners and losers right now when, whatever it is, 350 million tons of the stuff is being wasted every year. And by the way, to replace that 315 million tons, we're out there drilling for virgin oil and gas to turn it into virgin plastic. I mean, is that crazy or what? So yeah, we need to be really looking at this. I always talk about it as it's about the challenge of and, not or. And, if material is available and it's sorted for mechanical recycling, my base concept is that's where it should go. And once it's gone through mechanical recycling, it shouldn't go to chemical recycling. It's done. Chemical recycling needs to focus on that material that today is difficult or impossible to access because of its level of contamination, its inability to be separated, or because of the chemical value of the compounds that are within it that can be recovered in a different way through chemical recycling. So it really is about using the right technology for the right spaces, and there isn't one winner in all of that. This is a huge market, and we need to basically throw everything at it, including conversations about not using plastic in certain places. But I always say, if people think that this is as simple as getting rid of single-use plastic, then if it wasn't for single-use plastic, I don't know whether everybody's had their COVID jab on this call or not, but if you hadn't been for single-use plastic, you wouldn't have had it. So, it's using it for the right use and then putting the right recycling and waste processes in place. That's what we should be striving for with this, and therefore it's and.
Okay, excellent answer. I think the conversation around single-use plastic is a whole new topic, which would extend into the night. So, what do Roland or Dr. Steve Wong think of the challenges of chemical v animal recycling?
I'll let the doctor go first here.
No. Okay, to me, I see lots of things going on about chemical recycling. The only thing that I see effectively actually working, probably I give example like nylon 6 from the fishing industry, the fishing net. And I don't know whether pyrolysis only is actually chemical recycling or not. Otherwise, my experience about chemical recycling is the quantity is not there yet. And also you still need lots of separation. It's not putting everything in it and then come out, what you want. It's also a lot of like collection and separation. I think our recycling rate is so low, partly also due to collection and separations. So in fact, I want you to give, I want Tim to give an example of out of all the post-consumer we are now having in terms of material or waste from municipality. Can you give example of any one of these waste stream plastic scrap that can go for chemical recycling, especially the one that nowadays we call it unrecycled one, or the one that don't really get recycled? For example, from the mixed rigid plastic, the residue of the mixed rigid plastic. Yeah, because the mixed rigid plastic, normally people only extract the PEPP and also PSABS. The rest, they don't tend to recycle them. And then
Steve, we should have a conversation afterwards, because the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Another example is the B scrap. Yeah, I think with the E scrap, we only extract again PD, PP, and ABS, PS. That account for maybe 60% or 70% of them. The rest of the waste, like 30%. At this moment, because of the contamination, because of glass fiber, because of the family retardant, they all go to landfill. Of course, technically, we can recycle all of them, but it's a matter of like costs and also technology. But probably the cost of recycling them is a lot more than the market value of the recycled content or recycled material.
Well, I can talk to you later about the e-waste offline too, Steve, because that's something I deal with all the time. I'm able to use all this stuff to be more problematic. But I think when it comes to this particular topic, I think it is an and. I mean, they do complement each other. And I always say in a lot of the speeches I give, I said, this is polygamy, not monogamy. We have to marry ourselves to various solutions because they require it, right? And so I think we have to be involved in that. And I think that the one thing, though, that I do think chemical recycling can solve, the mechanical can't play a role in, and that's microplastics. I think microplastics are really too small to be mechanically recycled, and there's a lot of them. And I think chemical recycling would take the lead position there. But there's so many various technologies on chemical recycling out there too, Dr. Wong, that it's really great. And they have to complement each other, and making them work together is great. People want PET, that's being done through various processes. People do the pyrolysis, they do methanolysis, they do reverse glycolysis. You know, there's all these different things out there that are basically situated for certain materials. And so picking that particular item and then focusing on it is great, but you want to do it in complement with other people, right? Because Tim doesn't want some of that stuff for his process, but he may say, wow, but in order for me to gain access to what I want to team up with somebody, because casting a wider net will allow us to drive better solutions. So I think collaboration is a real key. I think we have to have the and. I think that's really the way to get this thing going. And so we have to have both. We can't do one at the expense of the other. And people see that as a threat, and they shouldn't. Because in today's world, if you don't have mechanical recycling, you can't really stage your material properly to have an efficient chemical recycling operation. And so they have to complement each other in some way through just simple size reduction, basic sortation, whatever. And of course, everybody doesn't want to talk about it, but usually the big elephant in the room is PVC. People don't like chlorinated molecule in most of these processes. So I think there's a lot of emphasis being given to that. But it's usually not talked about very often. So I think everything plays a role. And as Tim said, we got to throw everything at it. We got to pull out the bows, the arrows, the rifles, the bazookas. We got to do it all. And I agree with that. So
excellent. Good stuff. So on to the sort of challenges of the European Union. How do you think European Union restrictions on waste flows will affect the continent's ability to collect, reprocess, or consume plastic scrap? Who's would like to give that challenging question a go?
How about the guy in Switzerland? Let's give it to him.
The guy that's not in the European Union.
Very true.
Yeah, that's true. But you're surrounded.
Yeah, on all sides. Yeah, look, I think that, I mean, this I think is another one of those areas, and we have to be very mindful of this. That there is this deep frustration in political circles, driven by society at large, that they need to do something. They have to do something. They have to take action. So and there's so many different examples out there. I won't go into them. And sometimes they take action that is extremely beneficial, and sometimes they take action that creates problems. The law of unintended consequences. I think this is one of these areas where I see that it has triggered some a kind of a call to action, a kind of a focal point. We've got to do things. It's like the plastic tax in there, the packaging tax in Europe. It creates this focus of I've got to do something. It's not just NGOs, the press, and whoever clamoring, but this is real. There's money behind it as well, and I have to do it. This is where, though, I hope that over time there will be a willingness to learn how to actually finesse these kind of regulations such that you get the right optimum answer, not for a given country, but actually to address the global challenge that we've got. And that's my fear, because you know, lots of people are accused of greenwashing, and that goes for governments as well. You know, there was recently the report that came out in the UK about waste being exported to Turkey and burned. And, you know, so it's kind of, we're recycling, but we're not really. We're exporting it to Turkey. So I do think that there's a really good sort of incentive here that we have to work together to get the right regulations. And I don't want to get drawn into which one's right and which one's wrong, but I just think that fundamental position of a willingness and desire to learn and adjust as you go, because of the nature and the complexity of the problem.
I think it's a contradiction too, when we hear global, and yet we do these silos for regional and local. It's like you can't address a global problem unless you think globally. And certainly you can focus regionally and locally, but at the same time, you have to have an eye on everything. And I know the definition of waste in the EU is different than it is in North America to a degree. It's broader, but I think we forget the overlaps. And I think that that we have to be mindful that these markets can support each other. Combining, you have success here. Maybe it doesn't work over there, but maybe it does. Let's have open conflict. Plus, there's a lot of these regions that are shared, right? We have shared waterways. We have shared air currents. You know, these are shared, you know, environmental concerns. And, you know, we can't pollute upstream and expect it not to affect somewhere downstream. And we've seen that too much. So I think we have to have a great collaboration, but I think it creates opportunities. Look, I think when China started banning things, it put pressure on other regions to say, we've got to pull up our bootstraps. We got to do something locally. We can no longer export our problem. We have to find solutions here. So I think it's played a great role in innovation. Now it's time to cash in on that. It will evolve, as Tim is saying, and it will evolve, and it'll finally settle as long as we don't get too politically ramrodding this thing to where it doesn't belong. But I think that's all of our role. We have to help create the solutions, and those solutions they'll win out, in my opinion. So,
yeah, I agree with Ron and Tim about this recycling business now is different than a few years or 10 years ago because of the ban in China. And also give really an opportunity for developed countries to develop their own recycling system. And what I see now, probably for short term, there are low-grade material that nobody really wanted. At the same time, we have different technology to do separation, to do recycling, and also a requirement from the brand owner, recycled content, all these things, blah, blah, blah. One thing will happen in the future surely will be like recycling business becoming a local or localized business. And everybody or every country has to recycle their own waste. And the only thing that we talk about like global trade, global business might be, okay, some of the recycled material, processed material will go to countries that with better price or bigger demand. That's going to happen. And then we always talk about technology. In fact, okay, really the technologies move more faster than what we can cope with. So in other words, there are different technology to deal with different kind of waste. When we talk about recycling, it's a matter of costs. It's a matter of the recycled material, whether we can sell for a price that interests people to do the recycling. So in the end, it might not be a bad thing, but for short term, at this moment, the low grade material we still have to look for home. And I'm really positive that in the future, the recycling rate will certainly be doing more than what we have nowadays.
Yes, good.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's got to be positive about that. The last question, which is not necessarily a quick one to answer, but we'll give it a go. So what role would you like to see national governments play in encouraging recycling? What are some of the government actions you think cause more harm than good? So a difficult question to answer quickly and a controversial one potentially as well. So
I got to say this is a pet peeve of mine. It sets my hair on fire every time I see it. And so, but I'll be quick about it. And that is this, Governments and agencies exert and can exert enormous buying power, and they don't. They have unbelievable influence to quite frankly, mandate and require certain contents within materials they buy. There's mandates that exist today, but there's no accountability and enforceability of those existing mandates whatsoever. And so hundreds of billions of dollars of buying power just goes unchecked, unfortunately. So just by creating and supporting end markets, years ago, they could have driven these things tremendously. And now today, with certainly North America, with the infrastructure updates, there's just a huge demand, but I still see unfortunately an overabundance of cronyism and lack of support of innovation to pull these things through. But just the hundreds of billions of dollars of buying power they have could turn things around like that. And it's just not being, unfortunately, exerted as it should be. And I think the negative thing is ban on materials. The number one emitters in the world are buildings and agriculture, and yet we're not going to ban housing or food. So why do we feel that banning? I think any negativity is negative. I just think it's not a good thing to ban anything. So that's my quick, passionate plea for governments to step up and support through their procurement groups.
I'm keen to get some questions in. So Tim and Steve, do you have a relatively quick answer to that long, difficult question?
Well, I would just say that simplistic answers to this kind of question are typically bad answers.
Right.
So, you know, again, I would just re-emphasize that piece around, I need to do something as a politician, so I'm going to ban a certain thing, a certain material. Yeah, that kind of is a bad answer. It's simple, it sounds good, it's easy to understand. Typically, it results in the adverse outcomes.
I want to say one thing about government policy. The most or the worst word they use is ban. Okay, it's also the thing. Even like China as well. I don't think ban is the solution. To stop people importing. In Southeast Asian country, for example, Thailand, officially you're not allowed to import anything to Thailand. I think because of the demand, because of there's money in it. People use different way to import. For example, falsify HS code, or all different sorts of things. Okay, yeah, I think that the government or policymakers should really look at the fundamental instead of just only ban. So first of all, it's like this. And secondly, I support what Ron talked about, like. Now at the moment we talk about single-use plastic, but what about agricultural film? Every day, there are lots of agricultural film, burned in an open environment, and in fact, okay, we talk about like waste going to the water, eventually ending up in the oceans, right? So it's not only single-use plastic. I think we have to address the problem, like not only single-use plastic, packaging material is everything. And I don't see any problem that like you use recycled content in the single-use plastic material, but why don't agricultural? I know that there are a lot of discussion about these things. Sometimes it takes too long. And then we talk about Southeast Asian country. There are a lot of discussions. I think sometimes discussion takes like years before you can achieve something. And also when all these discussions really political. And as I said before, we hardly have any participants from the recycling industry. And the recycling industry people, especially the small, medium-sized one, they don't have time to deal with all these things. And mostly government don't really listen to them. They listen to the big companies. So I think recycling is not only a business that run by the big company. The small company is also important because we not only talk about PPP, we talk about like different kind of material. Even all these big companies will not be able to do some specific way of plastics. So this is the thing I see.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for those answers. Fantastic. A couple of opportunity for a couple of questions. One question from somebody who hasn't left their name. Is mandatory EPR the ultimate solution to all of this?
Can you repeat the question again? The EPR?
Is mandatory EPR the ultimate solution to all of this?
I don't think so.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just don't think so, because also, where does EPR really begin? I mean, how far back do you want to go?
Yeah.
I mean, and where's the consumer? I also see human behavior not being talked about at all. I mean, at the end of the day, human behavior plays an enormous role in this, and we seem to ignore that because it's too hard to change. But the reality is, human behavior plays a huge part of that. So even with an EPR, human behavior has to play a more important role. So,
yeah.
I see EPR is part of the solutions. It's not all the solutions. There are different solutions. For example, policy on landfill or incineration. It's got to be all these things together. Not only EPR, because sometimes it's very difficult to identify who is the producer. So I would say like deposit system is good. I would say this is only a part of solutions, like for some stream of waste or for some product, but not for everything. But not for everything, and also there should be also other policies to go with it.
Yeah,
it's had some success, by the way. It's had some success here in the States. Auto batteries are a great example. Automotive batteries are recycled at probably 98% rate, and the material used back into them. It's an enormous success story. But I can tell you, it took decades upon decades, and certain people took the lead. But that's a positive example. So I don't want to dismiss it offhand. But because of the success, I don't think you can, as Tim alluded to, and Dr. Wong too. It's part of it. It just needs to play a role. That's all.
Okay. And I think we've got time just to squeeze in one last question, and you need your crystal balls for this one. So this is Arthur Augustinovich is asking, in your opinion, about the future share of chemical recycling in total recycled volume of plastics, say in 10 years' time. What kind of share do you think chemical recycling might have by then?
Yeah, I think this is very difficult to answer. I think a different way of looking at it is, what share does it need to have? Yes. Because what we're trying to do is look at, how do you address this challenge? And I think that if you look at IHS Markit, they've shown some numbers around that going out to 2050. What you see is enormous growth in chemical recycling because of its ability, with the right technology, to go after that very, very difficult to recycle material that would cost far too much to put through mechanical recycling, or just simply will never be available to mechanical recycling. So, I don't know what the split is. Obviously, mechanical recycling is the largest today. The data I have from IHS Markit is today, globally, mechanical recycling is about 6% of the total waste stream, and chemical recycling is a rounding error. So, what does that grow to? I would say over time, maybe not 10 years, but they're going to be of similar scale to each other. But chemical recycling is clearly got some catching up to do. But it is about because the other thing that IHS Markit showed is that between between this year and 2050, the total amount of plastic being wasted, even despite all the activities that we've got around trying to minimize and whatever, probably will go up by somewhere between a factor of 3 and 4. So, we have to do something. We need, as I say, we need to stop rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic and get on with actually, moving and doing things, making decisions. And some of those things we then need to learn from and do differently afterwards, or we may need to enhance and do more of them. So I think that's where we're at.
Excellent. Anything in the last 60 seconds or so, gentlemen, anything to add to that? Excellent answer from Tim. No, I think that's a wrap. Thank you very much for your contributions. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversations. I thought I knew a little bit about recycling challenges, but I certainly know a lot more in just 45 minutes. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you for your time too. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cannot hear.
We can't hear you, but we can see you.
Sorry, yeah, just a minute. Yeah. Hello again, and thank you all for a very engaging conversation. Thank you, Paul, for moderating this session. It's been a very, very interesting debate, and let's see how this moves forward, as we say. And well, this is the last session on plastics recycling for the day, and I'd like to thank all those who attended various sessions throughout the day. Hope you all enjoyed the conference, and the International Recycling Week, of course, continues, and tomorrow will be another exciting day with focus on metals recycling. We have an exciting lineup of speakers, so those engaged in the sector can join us on the platform at 4 p.m. Dubai time. Thank you all the panelists, and Paul. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.